Yo, welcome everybody. Good morning. It's good morning over here in Houston, Texas. Welcome back to another episode of Chasing HTX Podcast. I'm your host, Enfi. And then this morning, I have one of my special close friends that I went to high school with, Sergio. How do you pronounce your last name, bro?
That's Luviano.
Luviano, because I was like Uviano. Like, yeah. I don't know, bro. Sometimes like just the LUV like really tricks me up, like big time.
Yeah, people say that all the time.
Man, you can follow him on IG at MVPHY_. His website is MVPHY.com. And he also has a podcast called Creative on Wine, where you actually drink wine with your guests. How does that go, bro?
Man, honestly, like, I did that it's been a year since I last had an episode out. So that previous year, I had the idea of having, just creatives and people who own, their business, on the podcast. And then if they want to have some wine, I have different varieties to choose from. And then, but it's funny because like not a lot of people are a lot of wine drinkers.
I mean, I'm not, bro.
Yeah, so I'm like, I guess it's more of like a, preference thing, but, either way, I always kind of cater to their needs. Or if they don't want wine, then I'll have something else, some water or something, so.
Even though wine is stronger than any alcohol, because I've tried wine, and it's hella strong. No wonder they give you a little bit. You're like, bro, this ain't nothing, and then, bro.
It sneaks up on you for sure. Yeah, it's just different kinds, and I'm actually still, like, trying to learn the world of wine and like just tasting different kinds and stuff, but yeah, that's kind of the concept of my podcast. And then I actually after this I'm sure I'm gonna reboot that because like this is like motivated me to like, all right, I gotta get back on it,
bro. This said, bro, I just got it like 2 days ago thanks to my supporters. They bought a bunch of prints from my print shop, and like I don't know, something about us being your own business. I was told not to use my own personal money for business. Unless you're starting out, then you can use your personal money. But if you have a business running, use that business money to pay for your own business stuff. So I was like, I have the money, but I was paying other stuff that I needed to pay, and I had enough money to buy like the equipment to start something new. So I was like kind of stressing out. So then I checked my website, and I was like, I have enough. Like, this is awesome. So I was pretty like, I felt loved, in the sense. It's like, man, people out there really want to support you, and this is cool. Like now we're doing this, and I'm just pretty excited, bro, because this sounds nice.
For sure, bro, man. I'm happy for you, man. Like, just walking in today and just seeing all this setup, like, I was like, like, he's making it happen. Like, just seeing everything, how you have it laid out. And then, like you said, as creatives, like, we have to also take care of our bills, but at the same time, like, knowing how to invest some of that in our own business. Because every time, we do that, it's always going to come back to us at exactly even more. So, it's always good to be around that circle of people that know, how it is. Not just always keep that to yourself or spend on personal things, but also reinvest in your business so it can grow even more.
And the only way is like you need to really believe in your business. Because, if you really want to invest into your business, you really got to believe in it. And the profits might not come next week, might not come the next day. Sometimes they do. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes they do. But sometimes they don't. And you just got to, like, wait. I think it's patient when it comes to your own business and learning how to, like, be humble and throw away your ego and your pride and just, like, be like another, like, a kid learning again how to teach me.
Exactly.
Yeah, so sorry. It's just too early in the morning. I've done a podcast in the morning. We're legit right now drinking coffee and eating some Shipley donuts.
I know the vibes. We out here.
So if you hear us like chewing, we apologize. It's too early in the morning. And yeah, man, we decided to do one in the morning because we kind of got busy later on this evening.
It's been busy, man. It's been both of us, man. We kind of have to schedule it out, and, it's an awesome, kind of thing to go across, being busy and going around our schedules and seeing what works. That means we're doing something right,
Yeah. Bro, so you've been running your business and sustaining it for 4 years. Like, I applaud you for that, because it's like, me, I'm running for 5 or 6. I keep forgetting, bro. I forget, like, once you just do it, like, it becomes like a natural thing. I guess, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I forget, I'm like 5, 6. Next thing you know, it's 10 years. I'm like, yeah, 5, 6.
I know you're still stuck in that. Yeah, because I mean, it's a part of your life. I mean, it is your life. You know, you live it every day, and then time just passes. But every time people ask me like, hey, how long you been doing this for or whatever, I'm like, well, I started in 2017. That's when I really wanted to, make it a business. And before that, it was always like, obviously we both do photography and I do videography as well. And, just kind of learning that at first. It was a hobby growing up, and then 2017 hit, and I was like, okay, like I really want to try to make this my own business. And then, that's kind of where, everything kind of started. It's surreal to think, of everything that's transpired, these past few years since 2017. Started as a photographer. Me and you, like, we started meeting up. I remember the early days, man, when there would be meetups or like, just, people taking photographs of models in downtown or at studios here in Houston. And then we would just be there together, and then just, creating that network, meeting other creatives as well. And seeing the growth from then till now, it's like night and day. It's pretty crazy.
It's crazy that's how we met again, because we graduated from high school. And then we never saw each other. And also, we never really kind of talked to each other in high school either. We just like saw each other and like, hey, what's up? And like, so now that we're talking to each other, I know, like, it's pretty cool, But it's just weird because, like, it's weird just to see somebody in high school and then you actually like, what? You're a photographer? Like I didn't know that. But your dad bought you your camera, right? So was your dad like the first one to support you, or he just bought it or what's the deal on that?
So I remember my first camera that I got, like, that was like, okay, I'm gonna try to really go for this. It was Black Friday. I think it was that year of 2017, and it was just one of those like special Black Friday deals that one of those. I think it was like a Nikon camera that like zoomed in and out. It had that lens that like just zoomed in and out on its own. We got to start somewhere. So that's like what I started with, and then from there,
waiting for that button, bro.
Right? You're like, let me press that. Yeah, man. And then from there, like you kind of start learning about gear, and then like what's better than this or better than that.
So you're shooting your family. Your dad bought you a Nikon, right?
Yeah, Nikon.
And then you went on a trip with your family, right?
Yeah.
How did that go?
Yeah, I mean, whenever we went to that trip, I went with my family to New York City.
Oh wow!
And then
wild places, New York City.
I know, and that was wild. So at that time, I had already changed cameras to an interchangeable lens camera, which was still an Nikon, but So, I started using that, and then just capturing the trip, just taking, I mean, New York City is a beautiful place to just take pictures overall, capture the memories. So many, all the buildings, the museums they have there, they have so many historic landmarks, and just taking pictures of all that. So whenever that happened, I would just capture everything, and then I just posted it on my Instagram page. I was like, I didn't think much of it. I was like, yeah, let me just, post it on there. At the time, I think it was my personal page, I think. And then, from there, I started getting some feedback from my friends and family, like, hey, man, these are nice pictures. What camera did you use and whatnot? So I was like, yeah, like, this is something that, I can really try to pursue, just professionally and just kind of strive for that. So that's kind of what happened. That after that trip, I came back to town, and then I think soon after I saw that you were, either hosting something in downtown with models or different photographers, and then I came out to that, and it kind of just started, snowballing after that.
So Instagram was the one that kind of like gave you that push.
Yeah. I mean, just hearing feedback from friends and family. With social media, is such a powerful tool. You share, people see it, and it's like it's so easy for people to give you feedback. But yeah, man, that was kind of like where everything started.
Were you scared?
At first I was just like not taking it as serious as a business. It was just like a thought.
Yeah.
I didn't really see it happening. I was like, all right, I mean, just another endeavor, let's go ahead and give it a try. but I wasn't like super like 100% in, you know. And I think that's how everybody is, honestly. Like when you have an idea, and don't get me wrong, I know there's people out there that are like, okay, once they're set their eyes onto something, they're 100% in.
Me.
But yeah, but for a lot of younger folks, like at the time, you know, I was like, okay, like I still had my 9 to 5 job. And then I was just like, okay, let me start doing this on the side. And it kind of just grew from there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Bro, so you have worked with a lot of like local businesses. Did you have any like trouble working with them when it comes to payments?
Yeah, man. I think talking numbers is always a weird conversation at first because you have to get comfortable with it. And
Because you weren't comfortable at first, right? Because I remember we had a conversation over
Yeah.
the phone like a few months ago. You're like, I'm not comfortable with charging people this high. Like,
Yeah.
like is it because you weren't comfortable with your own gift, your own craft, or you were just scared of giving your real number to people and then for them telling you, nah, I'm going to go choose someone else?
yeah, I think just knowing your worth and just like knowing that you know you're valued at that, it's kind of tough because we're our worst critics, you know, when it comes to our work. So when you talk numbers and you're like, okay, how can I actually, you know, put my work on a certain level of a price range for my clients, then you're like, dang, I should have really charged this much. Am I worth this much? Or even sometimes, like being honest, like you're like, okay, if I give this number, am I undercharging? Like, what if I should have charged more? You know what I mean? So it's always that, you know, thought of like, okay, where do I value myself, or at what moment do I have to elevate my value, you know, and then just knowing how to adjust that, you know, with your work. So with me, it's like I have my packages for event photography or videography because I do weddings and events, and then also more of like commercial work, you know, per project kind of basis with different businesses that want like promotional work for their business. So just kind of knowing how to structure that. And I've had, you know, kind of feedback from different creatives in Houston here, even, you know, talking with you, you know, just kind of, you know, hearing like, how do you structure your pricing or how do you do things with when talking to clients? And, you know, with that feedback, you kind of make your own kind of judgment of like where to set your prices. And then I feel like now I'm way more comfortable with that than when I started, you know? So I think everybody kind of just goes with it. And as time goes by, you know, they kind of get comfortable with, you know, where they are with that. So,
All right, let's talk numbers. Let's get real. Because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there that really want to, like, you know, well, I hear podcasts, I hear like YouTube videos, but they never talk about numbers. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know I was one of them. Like, yo, I kind of want to know the price that you started out with. You don't have to tell me the price you're at now, but like, just to give it like, you know, an insight of like how, yeah, like for a beginner, like, do you charge this much? Do you charge little? Or how do you go by that? And the second question, should you be charging as a beginner when you're just in the game for like 2 or 3 months?
man, I think, and I hear this all the time, and I'm 100% like with this answer too. Like whenever you're starting, like you said, 2-3 months into it, like you don't have to worry about that pricing. Like that shouldn't even be in your mind. You have to focus on growing your portfolio, creating your network, and really just mastering your craft. Because you want to get to a point where like you're good at what you do, to where the work that you're giving to people is actually at a quality that's like expected. And until you feel comfortable with the quality that you're delivering to people, that's when you can start like thinking, okay, like I'm actually, you know, putting all my efforts into this. This is like taking up this many hours out of my day. Like, okay, I'm to the point where I need to start, you know, pricing and giving people quotes on what the work is. So with me, it's like when I started, like that was it, you know, just working, creating my portfolio. And I was, you know, I had the pleasure to like go out to these, you know, meetups in downtown. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of that because there was no charge for that. Like you would just have to dedicate your time, your gas money to drive to the place, and then you would just be
Hustle.
there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just create the work, capture the moments, and then put it up on social media for people to see like what can you do.
Yeah. So how much did you start out with?
Man, I think I remember my first wedding that I did, bro.
Okay.
When I started, it was actually I think beginning of 2018 when I got, you know, my first wedding client, and I think it was like 250.
Bro, you went higher than me. I charged my first wedding $50.
$50. That's wild, dude. That is wild. Yeah, man. 250, and it was like an all day wedding. Like it was like they wanted me there like
Yeah, I
think
was there
at
all day
1
as well.
o'clock, and then I was there till like later that evening.
And what
I
you
was
provided for them?
stoked. It was just capturing the ceremony, family photos, obviously like candid moments,
So just photos
just photos
for $200
for 250.
which that's pretty cheap. That's actually really
Yeah.
yeah, so it's pretty cheap.
Looking back at it now, I'm like, dude. But it's such a awesome moment to cherish, because I think back into it. It's like at the time I was stoked. I was like, what? Somebody's gonna pay me 250 for one day of work?
Like when you start now, that seems like a lot of money.
It does. It really does. And you're like, so, not saying that I'm not as driven now, but when you start, you're hungry.
Yes.
You're like, okay, I got this gig. I'm going to kill it. And I'm just going to keep going after that.
It feels weird because, I mean, you had a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah, I did.
What was it?
I mean, my last job that I had for 4 years, I was working as in the admin team at a physical therapy clinic in Spring. Yeah. And then I would just do gigs on the weekends because I would just work Monday through Friday. So whenever I had, free time on the weekends, and I would get booked for like a wedding on a Saturday, then that's what I would do. And that's kind of when I started, growing in that side of my business. And then during the week, sometimes like after work, like whenever it would be like, how do they say, like daylight savings, or whenever it doesn't get as dark in the evening time, that I would, sometimes drive to downtown at 6, and it would still be daytime, and then get a little shoot in with a model or like with the client that needs portraits or something. So that's kind of what I did for the 4 years that I was kind of working at that company.
Wow. So you say therapy, right?
Yeah, physical therapy.
What is that exact?
So it was a pediatric clinic. So it was for kids.
Oh,
so
wow.
they would actually do physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy.
Wow.
So they would, any kid that, has any kind of struggles with that, when they're born and growing up in their first few years, then, they would kind of take them to that clinic and
That's crazy.
and have their appointments. Yeah.
Wow. And you actually did that. Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, man. It was, that job, it was, like I said, 9 to 5, it was more of like an office job for me.
Got
Like I mentioned, it was
So
admin.
you weren't hands-on with the client?
No, because for that you have to like go to school and have
Gotcha,
a degree and
yeah.
everything. But for me, it was more of like the admin, kind of like a desk job, doing
Gotcha.
spreadsheets and scheduling and stuff like that.
I mean, I think that's pretty cool because you learn how to be an office person, so you can kind of apply those same technical techniques that you just learned for your own business. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And also, what I was gonna say, back to your question, you were charging $250, right? It's pretty crazy that for us that seemed a lot at the very beginning, but when we have a 9 to 5 job, we get paid more than $250, either weekly or every 2 weeks. But we don't feel, it doesn't feel like how much we're getting paid each day. So I guess the fact that I'm getting paid $250 and I'm like, wait, it's just for today. Like, I think that's what triggers our mind. Like, oh shoot, that's a lot of money. Like,
That's the thing. Because like if you think about it, like if somebody, let's say they're getting paid average $10 an hour
Yes.
for 8 hours a day, that's $80 a day.
that's $800 a week, right?
About. I mean, if you work 5 days a week at that rate, with it being like $80 for the week, like let's say you're working 5 days, and that's like $400 a week. But if you think about it, if you're only for example, going back to the wedding that paid me $250 for the day, like even though it's one day out of the week, you see $250 instantly like that, and you're like, okay, like I got something here.
And just for one day.
Exactly.
It's like
Yeah.
not $80, not $50, like for one day.
Yeah. Which then again, you start going into like the hours or time also dedicated into editing. But
you didn't know anything about that when you started. You just said 250, I'll do it, everything, you're trying to get portfolio. So what was your biggest mistake on that? Once you did your full entire wedding, then you realized, damn, I overcharged, I lowball myself, or you were content with the price you gave them?
At the time, honestly, I was content
Nice.
with what I gave. Because it was just me by myself, one photographer, with the gear that I had at the time. I think I was still using that same camera.
Okay.
I think I had like my kit lens, like 18 to 55.
Hey, the kidneys go hard,
Yeah,
though.
it really does. It really does. And then I think I had like a like a 85 lens as well. So I would just use that, and then with the gear, it wasn't that crazy. I think it was like that whole kit cost me like $400, at the time. And then, just like I said, just, learning at the time I was still learning everything. So with the 250, I was happy with that. And then from there going forward, you keep, doing events, growing from that. And then you start realizing like, okay, you elevate your value as like your experience and also your equipment. And then you're like, okay, I'm getting to the point where I need to level up, level up, level up. And then,
How many months did it took you for you to level up?
man, after that, it took me, like, I want to say like over a year,
Nice.
for sure over a year, maybe a year and a half to kind of get to the point where like, okay, I got something here.
Were you scared?
Yeah, I mean, it was when I really, started to think about this and really going towards this endeavor full time was, going forward a few years. It was November of 2019. That's when I was like, okay, this is it. I'm gonna do this, and I did. And what made me make that decision, I actually had my first destination wedding in Cancun, Mexico,
Damn.
which was crazy. And that experience there was like, after I came back from that trip, I was like, my camera took me to Cancun, Mexico on a trip. Of course it was a work trip, but
Yeah,
just
but
to
yeah,
think
like,
about that,
that's crazy.
I was like, okay, all right. And after that came back from that trip, I had my talk with my boss, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this beginning of 2020. I'm going to go full time. And it was going to work out perfectly at the company because, the things were going to move around perfectly. And then, I went for it. So, that destination wedding in Cancun was pretty crazy. It was by myself. I actually did photo and video for that wedding, which was
That's
wild.
crazy.
Yeah. And, but the experience was great. And then, like I mentioned, that was kind of like the moment where I realized like, okay, after that wedding I did, I decided to, make
So for you, it was the wedding. The wedding is what gave you the
push.
yeah, I can do this.
The
You know what I'm
push,
saying?
yeah.
So how many months did you do free work?
At the beginning, man, I think it was I think it was for the whole first year,
Damn, that's crazy.
except that wedding that actually
Yeah.
wanted to pay me. Like, it wasn't me reaching out. They actually reached out to me on Instagram.
Gotcha.
And I asked the client, like, how did you even find me? She was like, I don't know. I just like hashtag Houston photographer and found you. I was like, okay. Like,
It's weird how they really don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, dude,
It's funny.
you're
It's funny.
on your phone, like looking at people.
But it's interesting to see like how many people use these hashtags, and even though there's a lot of work to see out there, like, how do you come across choosing me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that makes you feel like, okay, like that's cool, and that's kind of how a lot of people have found me actually on Instagram, just using hashtags and just kind of seeing your work. And if they like it, they kind of reach out to you, and they kind of make it happen from there.
So you did 1 full year of free work. Then you charged $250 first wedding, right? And then it took you 1 full year for you to like upgrade your prices, right?
Yeah.
And then you were still working a 9 to 5 job, right?
Yeah, this whole time since 2017, really even before then, I've always worked 9 to 5 jobs. But yeah, like when I started in 2017, that was actually also the year I started with that company, with that clinic. And then up to 2020 is when I
You just decided
yeah.
quit. What did your parents think about that?
Man, it wasn't like a negative or positive feedback. It was just like, okay, that's your decision kind of thing. I think with me being Hispanic, in the Mexican kind of culture, or like the way it is, it's like you think about somebody having a job, taking pictures for a living. That's like unheard of. You know what I mean? So it's like seeing somebody go through that endeavor and really thinking that it's going to, be successful. That's kind of tough to think. I think as a parent, because they don't see it like that. You know what I mean? They want safety. They see labor work as something that needs to be. And, even whenever, I started, it was like, okay, like, the support was there because it's family, but it wasn't like, yeah, do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, like,
Like,
all right.
oh, are you gonna get a job, bro?
right. So that's how it was. But then when they start seeing the process and seeing how you're growing and really making it a business, like, they're like, okay, like, all right.
How many years did it took for them to like, all right, cool, like, I'll support you?
Man, I want to say. I mean, honestly, it's still pretty fresh. I want to say because really going full time with what I do with my company, it's been since April of 2020.
Wow.
Yeah, because before then I was still working at my 9 to 5. Like up to then I was still working at my 9 to 5, and then just doing it on my free time.
So you quit, and then pandemic happened.
Yes. Yes. It was wild, bro. It was the craziest thing. So the way it worked out at the job that I had talked to my boss. I want to say December of 2019, like after I came back from the destination wedding, and I was like, okay, coming April of 2020, I'm gonna kind of phase out and just do my thing. And my boss understood, like, I was already doing this on the weekend, so everybody knew what I was doing and that I was kind of striving for this eventually.
Yeah.
So everything worked out, and then everything was set. April of 2020, I was gonna go full time. And then March hit, and I remember this because we were in that lunchroom at that job, and I remember hearing about the rodeo closing down.
Dude, that was a big deal, bro,
Yeah.
for a lot of people.
And everything shut down after that. It was crazy. Like the rodeo shutting down, such a huge event in Houston that happens every year. And just thinking about it being canceled just like that. Because it was already happening. And I think they canceled it for that whole last week. Because I remember having tickets for that weekend coming up. And
I think
everything
it was
got
on for
canceled.
like a month or two. And
Yeah.
then it just like complete shut off. They kicked everybody out, like,
Yeah.
you gotta go home.
Yeah, dude. And I saw that on the news, and I'm like, wow, what is going on? And then eventually, everybody was about this pandemic.
How did you maneuver through the pandemic? After you quit your job, you went full time with photos and video. What did you do?
I had to sacrifice a lot of like what I was kind of putting my money to, just like really adjusting and really calculating everything, to where, I knew I could sustain myself for however long, you know what I mean? So I was still getting gigs here and there, but everyone that I would get as a client, I would really, make the best out of, whatever, income I got from that. So, just really, I didn't eat out as much because I love eating out. But, not eat out as much, not go out as much, cancel a few subscriptions here and there just for the time being. And, just really making some adjustments into my spending to really make the best out of what I had. Because once you realize that you don't have that steady income coming in every 2 weeks from an employer, you're like, all right, I'm really on my own now. So I really have to make the best out of what I have and not take it for granted. Like, obviously, not knowing that you have something coming up in a few weeks, you're like, okay, like you switch into a certain mode where you're like, I don't know, you're just like in the grind mode.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, I really have to like go out there and get work and just.
Were you scared?
Yeah, it was scary, bro.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah, because it took me a couple of weeks. It took me a couple of weeks. Like after I talked to my employer, like I talked to them again. Like they talked to me. They're like, hey, you don't have to leave. It's up to you. You can stay. You have your job here. I know we know everything that's happening out there. And it took me like a week or two to think about it. And I was like, dang it. Like, what do I do? Like, I already had made up my mind, but then this whole thing happened with the pandemic. And I was like, all right.
That's some tough decisions right there, bro.
It was tough, bro. It was tough. And, obviously, I decided to stick with it.
Wow.
I did it. I left the company and started full time. And here we are now.
Bro,
it's pretty
you
crazy.
really did believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Or at least you took a big leap of faith.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, well, pandemic happened. You don't know when this is going to be over. I mean, we're still in pandemic right
Yeah,
now.
for sure.
I mean, we're COVID free. We got vaccinated.
Yeah.
And yeah, look, as you can tell, we got the Clorox wet wipes and all.
Yeah, we sterilized out
We
here.
sterilized everything now. I applaud you for that, bro.
Thanks,
Because
bro.
I quit my job. I remember telling my boss, it was during lunch. Man, I hate this job. Like, and I was working as a photographer at the Houston Zoo, but I was not yet a full-time photographer.
I remember that.
You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I hate this job.
Yeah.
And I go to my boss, like, during lunch, I quit.
Yeah.
I put all my uniform there and everything. They're like, what?
Wow.
I quit. And then I just leave. I don't never come back. I mean, I came back. They're like, "Oh, you back?" Like, nah, I'm not back to
Yeah.
work. You know, I'm back here just to check.
I'm
out
here to
things.
see the animals, man. That's hilarious.
So I've never done that in my whole entire life.
Yeah.
I've seen it in movies. I've seen it in certain,
Yeah.
you know, people just like, I quit, and they just walk away.
That's
you know, people talk
funny.
about
Yeah.
that, you know. So for the fact that I just did that,
Wow.
I quit without even thinking what my future was going to look like, right? I quit.
Yeah. Do you remember like you seeing me at Chase Bank?
Yes.
And you were there, and I asked you what were you doing for a living, and you were like, "Hey, I'm a photographer at the Houston Zoo," and I was a teller at Chase at the time.
Yes.
Right there on Yale. Yeah, I remember that, bro. That was a while back.
I was getting money out.
Yeah, I was like, "Damn, all right, Houston Zoo photographer."
Like,
Yeah.
it was cool. I mean, it made my resume look good. I'm not going to lie on that.
Yeah.
But the pay sucked.
Damn.
You know, like, I got paid good, but like, if it rained, and you know, Houston is so bipolar.
yeah, dude.
So like, if it even like small, tiny rain, go home, because they won't let people in. And if people come in, they're pretty crazy. I mean, it's just with umbrellas, and you're just getting wet. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I quit, and then I'm like, I'm gonna do this full time. And then next thing you know, I get a call from a realtor company. They're like, hey, we see you do a lot of like urbex and photography and abandoned places. We want to hire you. And I'm like, nah. Because I mean, I was like, I'm not trying to go back to a 9 to 5 job. So next thing you know, I go up, I was like, you know what? Let me go talk to them real quick. So I was like, hey, I don't want to work for y'all, but we can do a contract. And that's gives me authority that I can still be my own boss. I can still make my own rules, and I can still make my own time. You know what I'm saying? So they were a little bit sketchy about that, because they were like, no, we can put you on the payroll and all this. Like, nah, I want to be my own boss, because I know that I just hate it. You know, I've worked at Kroger's, pushed cards. That's when I really started thinking about my life. It's like, do I really want to do this for my whole entire life? Like, pushing cards? No. And then every time I push cards, I always dreamed of, man, I could be doing something better. Like, and I'm kind of glad that I did that, because that kind of pushed me to get out of that comfort zone. Then I went to the Houston studio as a photographer. Was not contract. I was actually on payroll, and I was like, I hate this. Like, I hate you telling me to go home and then me not getting paid. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna do the same mistake. Realtor, nah. This is my rules. This is my contract. Either you accept me or you don't.
Yeah.
And I'll walk out of here, because I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. And then, and he was like, really like, damn, this little kid just telling me like how it is. And that was my first time actually being really firm with myself. I was shaking. I kid you not, my knees were shaking. My leg was like, man, I shouldn't have said that. Like, you know, I just quit my job. My parents don't know I quit my job. So I'm like, and they're like, yeah, we'll take your contract. Let's sign a deal. I was like, bet. So we signed a contract for 1 full year. Now we've just been renewing the contract, because they love the way I work, and then I love the way they take care of me. From there, I was like, dude, I can do this. So then from there, I started getting clients. Hey, I won't be able to do the houses today, but I have a client. They're paying me more than you're paying me, you know. So it just worked out so well for me. And then ever since then, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna do this full time. Then I told my parents, hey, I quit my job.
Yeah.
They were like, what? Like, you know, it's Hispanic. It was like, you need security.
Yeah, exactly.
How are you gonna get a new car? Because I still drive my truck. You know, it's a used truck. You know, and I'm just glad that I'm not a materialistic person.
Yeah.
You know, because I think if I was, then I'll be broke right now.
Yeah.
You know, so I still drive my old truck. I still live with my parents.
Yeah.
But not inside my parents. We made the garage into a mini apartment, so now I have like my own spot in a sense. But I'm just blessed that my parents still let me stay in the land, because they're like, well, you're doing this, and we don't feel comfortable you doing this full time, so let's make you a room, and then you don't have to pay the bills, but you have to pay like at least like our expenses, like with the lights and the internet and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
So
that's
I'm like,
how it is.
I'm like, okay, I'll take that, and thank you for the support. I'm glad that you're not kicking me out on the curb and like, you know, all that. So I was really like appreciative about that, and I just ran with it. And I just like, you know what, let me do this. So I did free work for 6 months, just 6 months, because I'm like, yo, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, I got a camera. 6 months in, I started taking photos of some people who work out, bodybuilders.
Okay, fitness.
And then I met one of the, I think she was the CEO, or she knows the CEO of BBA Compass. Have you heard of them?
BBA Compass. That's like the stadium, right?
Like
it's a bank, but it's
the
like
bank and the stadium. But I was
animal.
like the corporate, the one who runs the whole entire thing.
Okay.
And they're like, we like the way you take photos of these bodybuilders and working out. I'm like, really? Because I mean, I personally don't like them, but I mean, if you like them, you know,
right.
it's like, hey, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So she's like, yeah, let me let me hire you for a gig. So I did a gig for them, and it was a concert gig, and I was like, dude, this is perfect. I'm about to blow up, like in the sense of like I'm about to show them what I can do, because concert was my thing.
Yeah.
So I go in there, I'm in the BBA. And I'm like, bro, I'm VIP. I'm backstage. Like this is amazing. Like I'm getting paid for this. And I go in there. I kid you not. I thought I was the only one. Nah, bro. There was like 4 or 5 other photographers. Apparently, there are like pros and experts that have been doing it for years. Keep in mind, I just quit my job, and then I'm 6 months of free work. So that was my first like legit pay gig.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I have like my Canon and a 50 millimeter, and that's it. I was like, damn, bro, everybody has like a 70 by 200. Like I'm like, what the hell did I get myself into?
Yeah.
So I go in there and I take photos of this concert and the people. And I kid you not, bro, they use my photos more than they use the rest of the people. And that's when I knew, it's like,
all right,
camera's not the thing. It's the person behind the camera. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I'm just taking photos, and they're like, dude, we love the way you work. Let me hire you for another gig. And I was like, all right, cool. I shot the gay parade. So I had to walk the parade with the BBA compass, and had to photograph the event, and you know, photograph people, them throwing out the candies and all this. And so I'm like, all right, cool. Not something new for me. I've never done this. So I'm photographing it. And they're like, dude, we love the way you capture moments and of people. And I was like, well, thank you. And then from there, that's when I landed my first contract with the Super Bowl. Wow. And when I got the Super Bowl contract, I was like, hold up. Like I was not used to contracts. I freaked out. And I sent it to one of my mentors, like, yo, I need a contract. Like, they're asking me for a contract, and this is a big deal. Like, I didn't want to mess up. Like, I mean, I can give you a contract, but I wanted to be like, I know my thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you want to show that you're your boss, you know? So, finally, went on Google, you know, looked up a contract, and then my homie, he actually owns a business. He's a decade already, business owner. And so, he held the contract, and I was like, cool, this is the contract. I'm giving it to them. And they were like, how much you want to get paid? And I was like, damn, I don't know. Like, I'm so used to charging like my price, 250 or 200 or 100, you know, depending on, but this is a company, and I know they got money. So it's like your mind just goes up. But then I'm like, I don't want to like overprice myself, because I want to keep getting booked for the company, you know? So that's when you start playing with your mind and all this. So they're like, how about 10K? And I was like, okay. Like I did not even say anything.
Yeah.
They were like,
where do I sign?
Yeah, where do I sign? It's like, here, just give me a contract. And then they texted me like, yo, I'm sorry that we're lowballing you.
Damn.
And I was like, what?
That's
like,
crazy.
But I didn't say nothing. I was like,
just thought about it.
I was like, no, it's okay. I mean, I think that this is suitable. Like, I'm satisfied with this. Don't worry, I'll get you your shot. Worked for 7 days, and I was getting paid like to 10K. How divided that by 7? That's
so like a little 1,800, I think. Let me see, 10K. How many days a week?
Every
7
day.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a little over 1,400 a day.
So I was getting paid for like 1,500 a day. They were taking care of everything. I had to be there day and night. And the only downfall, which good thing I was really good at, because thanks to my other people who helped me out do concerts, I had to take photos and return the photos edited the same day.
Yeah, you were on that schedule where you need your turnaround time was.
This is high professional stuff, you know. Like, so then I realized I was like, I think I was the only one getting paid, because everyone was just volunteering. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I'm here thinking, oh, they probably got paid. No, a lot of people were volunteering because they had the website. Hey, volunteer for us, and you get free tickets to go see the Super Bowl and all this.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, yo, this is when I knew, like, if I can get paid this much, wait a freaking camera, like you said, and I'm taking photos. Like, people can be taking photos with the cell phone, and like I'm taking photos with my camera. Like, so I just ran with that.
I think it's interesting how you said that when you heard the number, and you're like, if you overcharge, you start getting nervous about your skills. I think that's a balance that you also have to have in mind. Like, don't charge so much to where you're so nervous about the gig that you're going to mess it up. You know what I mean? Like, be at that price range where you're comfortable to where, like, not saying that you're comfortable to mess up and it's not going to be as bad, but like, don't overcharge to where it's so much that you're like super nervous going into it, and you're just not going to perform like as you would when you are at a comfortable rate. So
Yeah.
I think that's super important too. When
That's
you're
a really
starting
good
off.
key. You know, I wish I could had that kind of
Yeah.
key starting out because talking about 6 months in. I don't know anything about this. I'm getting paid some amount of money that I'm not used to having in my bank account.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, this is cool. So I got my first gig, right? And then from there, I'm like, my mind just switched it. Like, I'm sorry, I don't charge $50 or $50. Like, when you're seeing big numbers in your bank account, you're like, if I can do this, I can
Yeah.
do this big time. And then I realized families and weddings were not for me. Because after that, I'm like, dude, I'm gonna focus myself on corporates.
Yeah.
Like that's where big money is at. At least for me, that's what I thought. And I'm like, from there, I'm just like, big corporates, big opportunities. Now I get to like enjoy life in a sense.
Yeah.
So that's how I did it. That's how I became a photographer. But I did not. I did it kind of like the risky way. I quit my job and I,
Yeah.
you know, like, hey, let's see if
On your own,
if I
right?
go on my own.
Yeah.
You at least did it in a smart way. You had a job while you were working, and
Yeah.
you take photos on the weekends.
Yeah.
So this is like two different things, outcomes.
Yeah, man. I think everybody has their own journey, just the way they do things, and it's part of your story. You know, part of the way you know your beginnings are, and then just looking back at them now, like seeing we're both sitting in the same room, like talking about it. It's like, you know, we're still leveling up. We're still, you know, growing our business and, you know, working on our network, meeting so many different people. And, you know, we are in the position now here as Houston, you know, creatives that it's like there's so many out there, but I think everybody has their own story and just the way they started. And I think it's a beautiful thing for sure.
How did you feel like having your photo of James Harden posted on the Houston Rockets page?
Bro. Man, that was crazy, dude. That was crazy because I saw it being posted first on Twitter and it was blowing up. Like I was getting like notifications left and right. And then I checked out Instagram, same thing, notifications left and right. And the way that came around, I work with a trainer that, you know, trains with different NFL, NBA people here in Houston. And it was actually during COVID, so, you know, spring of 2020. And since all the gyms were closed at the time, they had a workout at the gym at the park right here on Buffalo Bayou.
Wow.
And James Harden happened to, you know, be a part of that workout that day, and I was able to capture photo and video for that workout. So yeah, man, it was pretty wild to see those pictures posted on the Houston Rockets Instagram page, on their Twitter page, and
That was free work?
that was spec work at the time. Because it was just such an opportunity I couldn't pass up. I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and make it happen. And there's, you know, that's going to happen sometimes too.
Yeah.
Like not every work, like once you have a set price range, like not everything, you know, after that's going to be priced. Like sometimes opportunities are going to come up to you and you have to decide whether it's worth it or not.
It was good for your business.
It was
or
good for
not?
my business.
Yeah.
And I got more connections and network after that. But it, you know, it was interesting. I got to meet James. It was pretty crazy.
That's crazy.
And
How
then,
is he?
He's cool, man. I mean, he's you know, whenever they're in that mode of working out, you know, you don't want to kind of disturb that.
Right.
So he kind of just, you know, fist pumped me. He's like, "What's up, man?" I'm like, "Hey, pleasure to meet you, bro." And then he kind of did his thing. And then I also had the pleasure on working on a production set here with a few Houston videographers with PJ Tucker. So that was pretty cool also to be a part of that and meet him. And he's like the sneaker god. So it's super crazy to see his collection and being a part of that production team with Mike and Sam, which shout out to them. They're amazing creatives here in Houston. But yeah, man, that was an awesome experience too, working with PJ.
That's
and then
crazy.
seeing him now, how he won the championship with Milwaukee, this like not even a month ago, it's pretty crazy to think. But yeah, man, it's been crazy to work with different people that are, you know, such big names here in Houston, and it's
But the biggest of all, your photos were on the Olympics.
yeah, man,
Bro, what?
that was crazy.
Olympics, Tokyo 2021.
Yeah.
Your photos were on the Olympics, bro.
That was crazy, bro.
How did that came about?
Man, I think something important to always keep in mind is always be a good person, even if it's on social media. Always be a helpful, like just positive person to everybody, because you never know when an opportunity from those people can come your way.
Wow.
So the way this came about, I followed one of the sports anchors, or the person that does the stories for a lot of upcoming athletes here in Houston for Channel 2. His name is Ari, and we've been following each other for some time on social media, and we never met in person.
Wow.
We just always follow each other on Instagram, and then recently he just randomly sent me a DM like, hey, Channel 2 is needing some photography done for the Olympics. Are you available? And then he connected me with Natalia, which was part of the creative team there at Channel 2, and that's kind of how it happened. I had a trial run first, like a trial shoot to kind of for them to see like what I can give to them, and they like what they saw. So after that, they actually booked me for a 2-day shoot to capture like the whole kind of like team at Channel 2. And a few of those also like actually went to Tokyo and did their like anchoring on that side. So yeah, man, like we, they already had everything set up with everybody. I just came in to do like the headshots and like just the photos. And yeah, man, when I found out, I was watching the Olympics like a few weeks ago, and I just see the photo pop up during commercial break, and I freaked out. I'm like, dude, that's my photo. Like, what? Like, that was crazy. And luckily, my TV has like to rewind back or whatever.
Yeah, my TV doesn't have that, so you're good. You're like,
so I was like, yeah. So
like,
I was
mom, look.
Exactly. I showed everybody. And then I was freaking out, man. And then it's crazy to think that these pictures were on a lot of screens throughout Houston.
Worldwide, bro. Worldwide.
Bro. It's crazy, man. So that was an opportunity that I will never forget. It was amazing to work with Channel 2. Shout out to everybody in that team. They're super fun people, fun to be around. They all gave me props on the work that I did, and it was just great to work with them.
Bro.
Yeah, man. So I'm looking forward to seeing working with them in the future for sure. But that was my most recent like biggest gig that I had.
Wow.
And then as of late, I've actually been doing more video than photo.
I've noticed that.
Yeah. So kind of seeing how they actually booked me for photo and just seeing the response from that and just really feeling like I killed it. I'm like, okay, like I don't think a lot of people out there can do both.
They can.
At that level.
I don't know if I can. I mean, I never tried video.
Yeah.
So it's like
at that level, because I think it's always good to know a little bit of both, but always obviously be better at one than the other, because I think with photo and video they have so many similarities, but they're two different worlds. But once you get to the point where like you're learning a bit of both, but also not forgetting what your main craft is, just growing the other one as time goes by, it's always good to kind of have knowledge on both worlds. So yeah, man, that was pretty surreal.
Inaka, what does that mean?
Anaka, it stands for countryside. It's a company here based in Houston. It's like a fitness driven company.
Is that the one you're working with right now?
I'm working with, yeah, man. Those guys are awesome too. Everybody in that team is amazing. And they're, I'm working with them now every week, and they're based in close to Stafford, Texas.
Nice.
And yeah, man, that's kind of what it stands for. And
it's a dope shirt, man.
Yeah, I'm like rocking it out right now. I'm actually heading that way after this.
Hey.
But yeah, man, those guys are great, and all this has came from just all my network and connections that I've created throughout all these years. And I've worked with a few videographers and photographers, and one of the ones that I kind of came up with at the time is Sam Solis, which shout out to him. And he's also the main commercial videographer for Anaka. And, his work is amazing. We actually had a shoot yesterday, which went amazing. And, just keeping, like I mentioned earlier, just keeping those connections and those friendships with creatives, just keeping those with you and just growing and just seeing everybody around you, growing, seeing everybody else that I work with in that world of photographer, videographer is pretty great to see. And just knowing that you can also rely on a circle of people. Like if you have a question here or a question there about pricing, about gear, maybe sometimes you sell gear to somebody that might need it or has something, a little bit lower than you, and you want to upgrade and you need to sell your gear. Always having that circle, I think it's really important to have because, like I said, you never know what opportunities can come your way. And when you're a positive person and always like, on people's good side, they're always going to have you in mind when something comes up.
Character over fame. That's
Yeah,
what I've been like
for
on
sure,
my motto
dude.
lately.
100%, man.
Well, man, thank you, Sergio. Thank you for being on this podcast, and thank you for coming to my office.
Yeah,
it's
man.
Pretty,
No, this is perfect, bro. I'm like, it's an honor for me to be here. And whenever you texted me, like, hey, man, can you be on my podcast? I was like, what? Like, yeah, it really means a lot, bro. And, we're both out here grinding, still, putting in the work, growing. And I'm happy for you and your endeavors and how far you've came along.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we're going to keep killing it, man.
Anything you want to put out, shout out to anybody?
Man, I think we mentioned a bit about anybody starting off with, their own endeavor with being a creative. Like, just keep working on your craft. Don't give up, believe in yourself. And then slowly but surely, you'll see the process. It doesn't happen overnight. And, everybody has their own route. Everybody has their journey and process. So just keep at it and, you'll have your moment.
Hey. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Sergio.
Sure, bro.
Man, this was a good podcast, man. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the conversation with you. Learned a lot from you today.
Sure.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. See you later.